Good morning. It's time for another episode of Your Crazy Aunt Reads a Book. All right, Chapter 4, here we go. Chapter 4, A Red Gift. Granny was not better in the morning. She was worse. She burned with fever and shivered with chills. She coughed and coughed and coughed. You need your curious cure-all, I said. The ingredients are listed on the table, she said in a raspy voice. I went to the table. Granny had all her potion and medicine recipes carved directly into the wood. A jumble of words etched on the top and the legs and even underneath. She said she wouldn't lose them that way. I searched the table. There was a recipe for curing baldness, 2 scoops of troll droppings and 1 fuzzy caterpillar, and one for rashes and bites, 3 sprigs of lavender, 2 drops of frog slime, and 2 spits from a witch, though any spit will suffice. Finally, I found it. Curious cure-all. 5 prickly chestnuts, 1 hand of wild cherries, and 1 bunch of gnome's wort. So far, these ingredients would be easy to find. I read on. 1 drops of pixie venom. Wear gloves. Pixie venom, I shouted. For medicine? Powerful stuff, said Granny. Undoubtedly, 1 bite from a pixie was as painful as 100 bee stings. 1 pair of tree nymph wings. How am I supposed to tell the nymph wings from leaves, I asked. You have to pluck them right off the tree nymph, she said. Otherwise they don't work. Isn't that a bit cruel? They grow back, she croaked. They don't mind. Even if I could find a tree nymph, I'd never be able to catch it. I'd tried many times without success, but that seemed a small concern when I saw the last ingredient. 7 wolf hairs. Can I get some wolf fur from your tail? It's rabbit. Besides, wolf fur is best when it's fresh. Just ask nicely. Ask who? A wolf, of course. Who else? Oh, I sighed. Sometimes Granny could be exasperating. She said crazy things as though they were completely normal, and then made you feel crazy for thinking what she said was crazy. Asking questions only made it worse. Is the wolf fur an essential ingredient? I asked. Of course it's essential, otherwise it wouldn't be on the list of ingredients. Now stop asking me silly questions. It's giving me a headache. I abandoned the curious cure-all recipe and instead made lavender honey tea to soothe Granny's cough. I placed the cup to her lips, but she barely drank. I tried pressing cold cloths to her burning forehead, but she tossed and turned and talked nonsensically. Snow? Said Granny. Is that you? Snow was her sister, who had died long ago. Red, said Granny. I was red once. Rose Red, they called me. Oh, I was beautiful, just gorgeous. Everybody said so. You're still gorgeous, I said. Ha! She began to laugh, but then coughed, and then the pain of it seemed to bring her back to awareness. Oh, Red, it's you, Granny whispered, as though seeing me for the first time. Happy birthday. It's not my birthday, I said. Of course it isn't. It's mine. Granny's birthday? She'd never mentioned it before. Not once. But of course she had one. Why had I never considered it? She just seemed timeless somehow, like she always stayed the same age. I have a present for you, said Granny. You have a present for me on your birthday? Granny lifted her arm and pointed to the end of her bed. Open that chest, she whispered. I went to the big wooden chest at the foot of Granny's bed. I had gone through it many times. It was where she kept her treasures, as she called them, mostly from her childhood. Crocheted baby bonnets, a patchwork quilt, worn and faded from many picnics, a white glove, dried roses that had once been red, now black and brittle, a miniature painting of Granny in a dark red cloak and her sister in a white one. What am I supposed to find? I asked. Unfold the quilt, said Granny. It's inside there. I unfolded the quilt and something slid out onto the ground. It was bright red. When I picked it up, the fabric unraveled like liquid, no wrinkles or folds. It was a cloak. A red cloak with a hood, just like the one Granny wore in the little painting. It was mine when I was your age, said Granny. Put it on. I hesitated. Go on, it won't bite you. I wasn't so sure. I draped the cloak loosely over my shoulders. Granny motioned for me to come to her, and with trembling hands she fastened the clasp at my chest and pulled the hood over my head. Let me look at you, said Granny. Aw, you look just like me when I was a girl. I shifted uncomfortably. It's almost as if I'm young again seeing you in that old thing. I had suitors coming through the front door before I could shove the last one out the back. My sister Snow had a matching white cloak, of course, and we wore them everywhere we went. Everyone called us Snow White and Rose Red. Granny's sister Snow was the one who married the bear, not to be confused with Princess Snow White, who lived with the dwarfs while hiding from an evil queen. The Snow White had lived over 200 years ago, but her name was a popular one. Anyone named Snow or Snow White had a destiny that usually involved dwarfs or apples or sleeping curses. You never knew what you were going to get. We wore our cloaks wherever we went, said Granny. We believed they were magic. I stiffened. I wanted the cloak off me. What kind of magic? But she didn't answer my questions, not directly. Red is a magical color, powerful. When you were born, I knew that you were red. I knew you had powerful magic in you. I pulled at the cloak. It felt hot and suffocating. Don't take it off, said Granny. It's going to get cold soon. It's summer, I said, and it's very warm in here. She closed her eyes and sniffed. I can smell the cold coming. Your nose has always been a little off compared to the rest of your senses. It's too small. I tried to laugh at the joke, but it didn't come out right. Nothing felt right. Not this red cloak. Not this frail and fevered Granny. Not the world. Red! Granny clasped my hand. Don't be afraid. I'm not afraid, I lied. You just need to rest and you need some medicine. One of your potions would make you better in an instant. Isn't there anything else you can take besides your curious cure-all? I walked to the cupboard and started to rummage again. I found a clay pot full of greenish-brown goop. Ooh, it smelled ghastly, but those were usually the potions that did the best curing. How about this one? Troll drippings. They will certainly finish me off, she said. I replaced the pot and washed my hands. Granny coughed some more. It got worse each time. It's all right, Red, she croaked. Sometimes we just need to let nature take its course. And sometimes we need to help it along with a little magic. You always say that. Yes, but magic can't help everything. You always say that. But you're very sick. Don't you want to get better? No one lives forever, said Granny. Stop avoiding the question. Don't you want to get better? Stop avoiding the truth. Granny grasped me by the arm, and the sudden firmness of her grip startled me more than her recent frailty. Everybody dies, Red, said Granny. One way or another, everybody dies. I know, I said, but the words were thick in my mouth. They felt wrong. It wasn't at all like Granny to speak of death. She was magic, full of power and life. She couldn't be dying. And yet the words echoed in my mind, lashing me with barbed whips. Everybody dies. Granny drifted to sleep. Her breathing was labored and raspy. My own breathing grew short and heavy. My throat swelled. My eyes burned. I couldn't stay here. Granny needed her curious cure-all, and it was up to me to make it. I found Granny's sturdy gloves, a vial for the pixie venom, a net for catching nymphs, and a jar to hold the wolf fur. I placed all these things in my basket. Milk bleated at each of my movements, clearly concerned with my rush. I'll be back soon, I said. Watch after Granny, will you? She said she would. It took one last look at Granny. She'd get well. I might get bitten by pixies or eaten by a wolf, but Granny would not die. That was kind of a sad chapter. All right. Chapter 5 is called The Curious Cure-All, so wonder what's going to happen then.